We are live. We are live. We are live. Are we live? Let's find out. Okay, let's get a Discord message out. Alrighty, we are live. Can you believe it? Last time we were live was 3 years ago already, which is crazy. It was actually, I took that screenshot this morning. It was January of 2022, little over 3 years ago, and 3.5 years ago, which is crazy, but we're live. And hello. Welcome, guys. We're live, and we're live for the first time on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. Previously, I only ever streamed on Twitch because I was a little scaredy pants, and I was too scared to go live on YouTube where I have a bigger following. But we're live now. We're getting over our fears. And yeah, what have you guys been up to for the last 3 years? 3 years since the last live stream. For me, if you don't know, I released a game called Farewell North. Went pretty well, pretty happy with it. And now I am working on a new game, a new little prototype, which I unfortunately cannot share with you yet. That's a game I've been working on for the last several months, and it's going pretty well. I've been playtesting it. I've been getting that out to some playtesters. The response has been really good. I've been talking to a PR firm, and we've been talking about when we're going to announce it, and it's probably not going to be until early next year, unfortunately. But I've been kind of getting the itch to start streaming again. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to do a little game jam for the summer. So if you don't know, Games for the Weens is a organization or a campaign that raises money for the Glasgow Children's Hospital. I worked with them a couple years ago as part of a Steam event. But this year they're doing a game jam, and it is going to run until the end of August. So what we're going to do, which I think is going to be pretty fun, is we're going to make a game 100% completely on stream. So the goal is that at the end of the 60 days, we'll have 40 or so streams. I'm going to stream at this time every day, Tuesday to Saturday, so 5 days a week. So at the end, we should have 40 streams, 40 videos that go from clicking new project all the way to releasing the game, probably just on itch, unless it turns out really, really well. Then maybe we'll do Steam or something. But we're going to go all the way from new project to release and yeah, see how it turns out. So I have an idea for what the game is. I'll get into that in a minute. But let's have a look at the chat here. So any info on the genre or type of game that I'm making? I haven't shared anything about it yet, unfortunately. I don't know if I want to just yet, but it's very different. I will say that. It is very different to what I did with Farewell North. It's not a cozy or a wholesome game at all. It's very, very different. It's very creatively freeing, I would say. It's very weird compared to Farewell North, where as much as I loved working on Farewell North, it was very kind of like a heavy game where I felt like a certain level of responsibility for what I was putting into it, just based on the subject matter. This is kind of a little bit more silly. It's a little more freeing, and it's been a lot of fun to work on. And I'm really kind of scared to announce it as well, because it is so different. So I'm a bit worried that people are going to be expecting another kind of cozy or wholesome game, and this is definitely not. It's definitely not that. But yeah, I'm like scared and nervous and excited and all the different feelings all at the same time. All right. So, but for this game, for this little game jam game that we're going to do for the next 60 days or so, I do want to do something that's a little bit more in the kind of cozy, wholesome genre. So this is actually something, so after Farewell North released in August last year, I worked on the PlayStation port for a bit, and then I went through a period where I was just prototyping a bunch of different ideas, and I did like 6 or 7 ideas, but the very first one I did, the very first prototype I made, I was really excited about it, and I'm going to show you guys in a second what the inspiration for this was, but I was really excited for it. Actually, let me just pull that up now. So I was inspired by these images, these exact images on Twitter. So this account, Taylor Brooker, she's an artist that does embroidery art. And she does these kind of landscapes where she creates these environments, these kind of natural landscapes, but she'll do things that are really interesting. Like she'll add little creative touches to them. So for example, here's a landscape, we got water, we got grass and all that. And then she added this road, and then there's like trucks and cars and stuff going along the road. And she's got other ones with like trains and all these different things. So my thinking was, what if we could create these kind of environments using kind of the raw materials of like water, soil, maybe asphalt. We'll have to figure out what those are, but the kind of raw materials, and then the environments based on the kind of materials that you combine spring up around it. So if you have a lot of green lands and stuff, we'll start to see like birds and animals and sheep and all that kind of stuff popping up. If we have more industrial things like asphalt, then we'll start to see like houses and trucks and all that kind of stuff coming on. But here's the twist. I want you to be able to actually go into this environment fully 3D. So you design it in an embroidery kind of layout, right? So we'll talk about the input for this in a bit, because this is where I kind of got stuck. We design it in this kind of embroidery style system, but then you can actually like go into the environment in 3D, and you can walk around and you can look around and you can see what kind of came up through that kind of embroidery. So it'll have these two modes where we're kind of creating these environments, and then we're going in and we're exploring them. I don't know if there'll be objectives. I don't know if there'll be story. I have an idea for how there could be a story, but I don't know if we'll have time for that, because we have 60 days and we're only going to stream a couple hours per day, and I'm only ever going to work on this game on stream. So I'm not sure how far we're going to get, but the goal is to at least be able to embroider environments and then go into them and explore them in 3D. That's the goal. So huge shout out to Taylor Brooker for creating these. Definitely encourage you to follow her. She has some really, really cool pieces that she's done. And every time I see them, I'm just like so inspired by it. I think these are so cool. And I'm imagining kind of like this house with these kind of embroidered pieces hung on the wall, and you can go into them and you can edit them and you can go into the environment and look around and explore. And I think it'd be really, really cool. All right. Locks, can you pet the dog? You can pet the dog in Farewell North. Absolutely. In this, I don't know if we'll have a dog, and I definitely don't think we'll be able to get to petting the dog, but who knows? Maybe a stretch goal. Such a cool idea. Glad you like it. Effectus Games, how's it going, man? Hey, just quickly passing by to say hello. Appreciate it. Thank you for passing by. All right, gotta go eat. I'll watch after if you're still live. Enjoy. Cool. Have a good lunch or dinner or whatever it is, wherever you are. So that's the idea, guys. We're going to get into that. So I want to talk a little bit where I got stuck on this. So like I said, I did prototype this way back when, and I got stuck pretty quickly. And what I really got, so I was like gung-ho on this. I thought this was the greatest idea ever. And I actually bought embroidery kits, and I learned how to embroider, and I learned all these different stitch techniques and stuff like that. And I was so excited about this. But I realized when I tried to put this into a game, I had no idea how to actually make that fun to do, because everything I tried was pretty much just turning into like the Photoshop path tool, where you like draw points and then create like a square, and then it fills with the color, and it just felt like, I don't know, not super interesting. But I have an idea, because I saw a second thing which was also inspiring, but we're gonna get into that tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll start writing some code. Today we're gonna just do a little bit of artwork. So I have an idea for how the input's gonna work on this, which is, I think, quite unique, and I think it'll make it pretty fun and pretty gamey. But yeah, we'll get into that tomorrow. Today I want to kind of start laying out some of the artwork for this. We're going to put the cart before the horse and do art first, which you obviously shouldn't do, but we're going to do it. Sound good? All right. Yeah, so the goal today is here's basically what I want to do. I want to create essentially this in Unity. So we're going to model it in Blender. We're going to have these little canvases, we're going to have spools of thread, we're going to have maybe like a decoration or two on a table in Unity with some lighting, get it looking nice. And then tomorrow we'll get into like how we're actually going to design these embroidered pieces, which I think will be fun. But yeah, today will be a lot of Blender and just kicking off the project in Unity. Sound good? All right. Let's get Blender open. Okay, I thought that was you, Ilux, but I wasn't 100% sure. All the E's didn't seem entirely in character. You're always so serious. But yeah, cool. Thanks for stopping by, Ilux. Appreciate it. Alrighty. This is so cool. Looking forward to watching it come. Cool. Thank you. Actually, you know what we're going to do? We're going to start creating the new project in Unity. because that's probably going to take a while. We'll have that running in the background, so we're ready to go. Cool, new project. Unity 6. Call this embroidery. And we'll go 3D, universal 3D, cool. So we'll kick that off in the background, but let's start laying out some art. So yeah, as I said, you definitely shouldn't be starting with art first, but I don't know. I'm always a little bit of a sucker for art first, just because, I don't know, I have a hard time working in a gray box flat scene. Why do you continue to use Unity over Unreal? Are you not fascinated by the tools that Unreal offers? Nanite, Lumen, curious to hear your perspective. Cool. All right, 11 minutes in, we're already, this is the first Unity versus Unreal question. My answer to this is kind of boring, but I think it's pragmatic. And I think this is probably not going to be the most exciting answer for you, but I just kind of don't really care that much. I think Nanite and Lumen are obviously very, very cool from a technical point of view, but I think they have some issues. I think we're seeing a lot of games coming out in Unreal that are very poorly optimized, that run quite poorly. It's kind of giving Unreal a bit of a bad name at the moment, where people see Unreal and they assume that the game is going to run poorly and choppily or whatever. I don't actually think that that's really Unreal's fault. But I think every engine pretty much has its pros and cons, and I think experience in an engine is far more valuable than whatever kind of shiny new tool that they offer. So I did a video about this like 2 years ago. Same with Godot. Godot has some cool stuff. I as someone who's, I ported my last game to Switch, Xbox, and PlayStation. I did that myself. Had that been in Godot, that would have been very, very difficult. Just because of the way Godot is structured, it's open source. They can't have all of the kind of private NDA locked plugins made available. I know that I've heard anyways that they're getting better with that, and they have some options now, I think, with Xbox, but I don't know, I can't speak on that. I'm not entirely familiar with it. But honestly, I think if you want to run on PC, Mac, Xbox, Switch, PlayStation, Unity is the easiest to get all of those set up. They have the best integrations with the consoles. It's a great all-around engine. It definitely has its flaws. It definitely has a lot of bloat and a lot of issues, but it's really good. And I honestly think that having experience in that, it's the same with like programming languages. Like ultimately, pretty much any programming language can do pretty much anything. If you have experience in one, that is a lot of value that you're giving up if you switch just to chase another feature. So I think it's just kind of a pragmatic thing. I do think Unreal is really cool, and I do love making narrative-driven games, and I think Unreal is really, really good for like those kind of first-person or third-person, kind of highly immersive, very, very detailed games. So I am a little bit jealous that Unity's HDRP is like not on par with that. But ultimately, I just don't think switching to Unreal is going to give me such a big leg up that it overcomes like my 10 years of experience in Unity, at least not yet. Maybe one day that'll be the case, but for now, I just don't see a real need to kind of give that up. So yeah, I'm boring and sticking with Unity. Engineless, that's the dream. Like, I'm a software engineer at heart. That's what I love to do. I used to tinker with OpenGL and all that stuff a lot. I would love to go completely engineless and make a game completely from scratch, but I know pragmatically, like, Feral North did well enough that I get to make another game, but it didn't do well enough that I get to, sit on my hands and dilly-dally. I have to kind of get going. So, if I was to make an engine from scratch along with making a game, that's going to take a long time, and it's going to limit the kind of games that I can make. So for now, I'm definitely going to stick with an engine, but if I ever, win the lottery or make the next Balatro, you can probably bet that my next game will go with a custom engine, because I think that would be a lot of fun. Makes sense? I'm guessing, okay, so I'm guessing, Vim, do you use Unreal, and Martin, do you use Godot? All right, I'm going to start with, we're going to start by making our kind of base canvas. This guy here. and it'll just be white for now. No, I mean, perfectly valid. I'm playing with both and want to make these narrative horror games, but just trying to figure out which one to sort of start mastering per se. Yeah, I mean, that is, so if you're at the beginning of your journey, I definitely think it is an intimidating choice, because they are definitely an investment, like a time investment. Thanks for the follow, Kazumi. They're definitely a time investment. I think what you kind of have to do is, spend a weekend or two doing some tutorials in each, kind of get a feel for them, and then just kind of follow your gut a little bit with which one feels more comfortable to you, like which one you kind of gravitate to, which one the workflow kind of fits your kind of work style. I think for a lot of people, and this is not a universal rule, but for a lot of people, the kind of prevailing advice has always been, if you're a programmer, Unity is more likely to feel a bit more comfortable, and if you're an artist, Unreal is going to feel a bit more comfortable. But I don't think you necessarily are like tied to those lines. I do think though, like, you need to kind of make a choice and get going with it, because the engine is not the most important choice when it comes to making a game. It is a choice, but it's not the most important choice. And I think you just kind of gotta make it and get going. I think people spend a little bit too much time on that, in my opinion. Fun fact, Balatro is made using Love2D of Lua, which makes it technically engineless. That's cool. Balatro is... I'm like not really a card game person, but I recently picked it up because I realized it was on Game Pass, and oh my god, that game is like... It is addictive, man. It is like... The game feel in that is just insanely well done. I completely understand why it is such a big hit. And yeah, for a few days, I was just like... I was pretty hooked on it, it's all the little effects, the sounds, the little animations, all of it is just so kind of like expertly crafted, and the game design as well is also very, very good. But it's not a complicated game in the sense of like, like technically speaking. So I'm not surprised it's made in something like Love, because you just don't need all the kind of weight and the heft of like a Unity or an Unreal. Like if you made Balatro and Unreal, you'd using like 1% of the engine. It's just completely unnecessary. I'm doing this like the slowest possible way. Bear with me, guys. I've come this far. If you select both edge loops, thank you. Thank you. Bridge edge loops. Thank you very much. Apathy. Cool. So, I mean, the modeling on this is going to be pretty straightforward. We're just doing a couple little guys here. I think the most complicated bit is going to be this thread. So that'll be fun to figure out. But for now, I just want to get like a kind of base canvas going here. We'll do that for now. And how's our Unity project coming along? There we go. I work in pipeline and real-time visualization and decide engine per a project's needs. Lately picked up Godot to be able to fully own a production and not stress over licenses with big clients. That is absolutely the huge advantage of Godot. With Unity and stuff, there's and Unreal, there's all the licenses and the pricing and all that comes into play if you have a successful game. Interesting that you work in pipeline and real-time visualization. So what kind of, if you don't mind me asking, what industry are you working in? I'm just curious. But that makes sense when you're working in kind of a professional setting, then I do think, the engine's strengths and capabilities do come into play more, and especially like the experience of your team and all that. So everything I was saying before is definitely kind of tailored to like the solo indie developer, someone who's working on their own, and is kind of just like, either a hobbyist or kind of first-time game developer. If you're working in the industry and you have like a team that you're working with, absolutely, then the decision is much more sophisticated, I would say. I'm gonna move this so I don't spoil anything. Pretty new, but automotive transportation. Interesting. So are you creating like visualizations of, sorry, one sec. Are you creating visualizations of like, proposed vehicle designs, or like what is it that you're visualizing? And of course, if anything is beyond what you're able to talk about, absolutely let me know. I'm just saving this blend file in the project, guys. I just have a whole bunch of stuff in my recent history that I don't want to necessarily share. Cool. Alrighty. So I just want to do a little bit of cleanup on all this URP kind of boilerplate and get this project set up. So let's go edit project settings. So we want IL2 CPP always. We want preferences. We want to disable the, what do you call it? Disable the domain reload. Where do we keep that again? Project settings. Here we go. So if you guys don't know, you know how like if you click play on Unity and it's like hella slow, if you disable the reload domain, so go to reload scene only, as long as you're not using a ton of static variables, and if you are using static variables, you know how to properly clean them up, this makes your life so much better. It's so much faster to get in and out of the game. So I just want to set up a little basic shading model here. Okay, we're upside down. Turn on backface culling. Why are we not backface culling? Ah, there we go. Cool. Shade smooth. Okay. Just go like full 90 degrees. Cool, good enough for now. And let's get like a little table going here. So the idea is we're going to basically be 2D, essentially. We're going to be rendering in 3D, but like the gameplay will be in 2D. So we'll have this like overhead view like this. Like I said, we'll talk about the input system tomorrow because I think it's going to be pretty unique. We're going to create these environments, and then we're going to somehow, I have not worked out how this is going to work, going to like transport into the environment and be able to walk around it in 3D. And hopefully that whole transportation, or that whole kind of transition, will be completely seamless. No idea how that's going to work. We'll figure that out when we get to it. I have some ideas, but yeah, that's going to be, I think, the tricky part of this project, essentially. Will be that kind of transition sequence when we're going in and out of the two game modes. But this part, at least visually, should be pretty straightforward. We're just going to go, essentially 2D, no real movement or walking around or any of that until we get into the 3D world. And this is way too tall. Something like that. The top and the bottom. Harden a little bit. Something like that for now. And let's name these things. So this is our embroidery canvas. And this is our table. Get our rotations right. What's the scope of this game looking like? As big as Feral North, or more like a small creative project? This is a very small creative project. So if you missed the kind of the project kickoff at the beginning, essentially the idea is we're doing this for Games for the Wains, which is a kind of charity campaign for the Glasgow Children's Hospital, but this is for a game jam, so it ends the end of August. So we're going to make this game 100% on stream, and we are going to, I'm not going to work on this off stream, it's just going to be 100% on stream as much as possible, and we are going to see how far we get, essentially. So it's going to be a pretty small scope to start. I have some ideas for how we could make it bigger if we have spare time, but I think for now it's going to be, let's just kind of get the embroidery working, get us walking around in an environment, and let's see how much time is remaining. Because I do think that kind of transition from embroidery to a full 3D environment is going to be pretty tricky to pull off, and that's probably going to take a bit of the time. Like my kind of like passion is always in storytelling, so I have a million ideas for how we could start telling stories inside of this. So I think that's one area I would, essentially an area of scope creep that I would like to see. I have a few ideas for how we can make challenges out of this. I can't really describe that until we talk about the input system tomorrow. Because I think that's going to kind of drive a lot of this, of what's possible to create in this little tool. But yeah, we'll see how far we get. And yeah, it should be fun. Sounds fire. Cool. Why is my rotation off? 90, 90. Applied these. Oh, wait. Nope, didn't want to do that. We have, there we go. Okay, cool. Okay, so before we go any further, let's start doing the most important thing, which is mess around with our shadow settings and all that good stuff. Get rid of mobile, don't care about that for this. Okay, let's go. Shadow Atlas, 4096. Let's go 1024, 2048. We're not gonna have a lot of shadow casters. We're just gonna have the one light, so. Nope, 512. Yep. And we don't need. There we go. And we want soft shadows. Oh, we do have that. Why is this so crunchy? Thank you for the follow, SX176. Appreciate it. What am I missing? Why do we have such crunchy shadows? Oh, here. Because we just have the one. There we go. Okay, cool. That's better. Cool. And let's give it a little bit more. So this is going to be the interesting part. Since we have the two environments. Thanks for the follow, Gopher. Appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, so since we have the two kind of different modes, where we have this embroidery set, and then we're going to have the 3D, this is going to be tricky with the lighting. I think we can pull it off with light layers. We can have different sets of lights for the two, but getting them to kind of blend seamlessly is going to be interesting. Yeah, I think that whole transition between embroidery and a 3D environment is going to be really tricky. And we're going to also have scale issues because I want, like, the whole 3D environment's going to exist inside this plane for the seamless transition. So that's going to introduce a whole bunch of interesting challenges. So yeah, it's going to be kind of a simple game, but very tricky to pull off. I'm excited to get into all that. And let's get a little bit of... To think. You almost went back to bed. No. I'm glad you're here. What time is it where you are? I think you're in North America, if I recall. It's getting real late. What do we want to do next? Maybe let's set up 6:30 a.m. Wow. I would have been up already at that time. Let's start on our shader. So we're gonna have, I always like to have an Uber shader. We're gonna do this in shader graph just to save on time. We'll go lit. That's our Uber shader. Let's go. Cool. Create a material. Shader. So one thing that's nice with the new Unity versions is you have material overrides. So you can have, I always like to have an Uber shader, where pretty much everything in the game is using the same shader, but you're always gonna have some variants. So you can use the kind of material override system to create variants of a single Uber shader, which is quite nice. Or sorry, variants of the Uber shader material, which is quite nice. And let's just set this up properly. So materials, main material, Uber shader. Apply. As someone who writes a lot of shaders, do you prefer shader graph or HLSL for large, widely used shaders? So I've been kind of coming around on shader graph a little bit. So traditionally, I always prefer code over node-based editors. It just kind of works better the way my brain works, and I find code a lot easier to reason about than kind of noodles of lines going every which way. However, the one reason that I'm kind of turning around and using shader graph a little bit more is because with Feral North, everything was shader driven. It was so shader heavy, and I spent, dozens and like days and days and days, upgrading shaders to the latest URP version, fixing all the stuff that Unity had changed in whatever updates they were doing, all the different passes. You don't have just like your main, lit pass. You have your shadow casters, your depth passes, your light map baking, all these kind of things, and it just becomes a huge nightmare to keep up to date. When you use shader graph, at least Unity's kind of responsible for updating all that stuff. However, the one issue with shader graph, aside from being a node-based tool, which just for me I'm not a huge fan of, is I almost always come up against some limitation that prevents me from doing everything I want to do in shader graph. Like one of the big things I'm struggling with right now in my main project is shader graph not supporting the stencil buffer, and there's no real reliable workaround for that. So that's a huge pain in the butt. And there's always stuff like that where shader graph has some limitation that you can't deal with. You can write your own code inside of shader graph right now, which is really helpful. But you still can't get around kind of meta stuff like stencil buffers and all that. So it really depends, how far you plan to take your shaders. If you just want to do some like custom effects and stuff, shader graph all the way. If you're really building a game around a shader mechanic like Feral North, I think you got to go with HLSL for sure. 6, normally yes, but I'm waiting on a call back from my union hall, so I'm off work at the moment. Otherwise, be in the car right now. At 6:30? Oh, like heading to work? That's an early start. Yo, if you could start again, would you use Unreal Engine for your games? I feel like you were more of a storyteller. I am definitely more of a storyteller. So we were talking about this a little bit earlier, the Unreal versus Unity versus Godot and all that. If I was starting over, that's a tough question. I don't know. I think kind of similar to HLSL. I really don't, it's the HLSL versus shader graph. I really do not enjoy node-based editing. And I know you can write C++ in Unreal. I'm not adverse to C++. I used it a lot earlier in my career. But I feel like, and I haven't used Unreal since 4. I haven't really checked out Unreal 5. So, keep that in mind. In Unreal 4, I always felt like C++ felt like it was like a second class citizen. Like everything was like blueprints first, and like figuring out how to do something in C++ felt like a bit of a headache. I much prefer in Unity where everything's kind of like C# first, and they have like visual scripting and stuff, but it's not the kind of primary way to do things. I think that does kind of make a difference, but I am definitely jealous of some of the tools that Unreal is getting, some of the like really high fidelity tools like Nanite and Lumen and stuff like that, and I don't think HDRP is keeping up. And I honestly wish the Unity would just kind of get rid of HDRP. This is my selfish thinking. I wish they would get rid of HDRP and just go all in on URP and just make a really good general purpose engine and forget about the high fidelity stuff. I feel like that's kind of slowing Unity down. It's kind of causing them problems. But to answer your question, if I was starting over, I really don't know. I would have to give them both a fair shot again and kind of see what, what feels right. I had the same issue with the stencil buffer a week ago. It's so annoying. Like, I feel like the stencil buffer is such like a kind of core, I mean, it's not something you use every day, but it is something that's like prevalent enough in a lot of effects that it's a mystery to me why they don't have it. And it seems like from the outside looking in, it would be such a simple thing to add. It's just a couple ints that they need to expose, but I don't know what the holdup is on that. It's been years of people waiting for that. Wait, the chats are combined. I can talk to someone in the Twitch chat from YouTube through the stream. Haha. Yes. Yeah. So we have all the chats combined in one stream here, which is nice. Yep, we start typically at 7 and end at 15:30. Nice. What's the concept for this new mysterious game? So there's two games. So if you guys missed the start of the stream, I'll give a quick recap. So I have a project I've been working on for the last several months. I'm really excited about that. I can't show it yet. Probably won't be able to show it until early next year. So what we're doing now, we are doing the Games for the Wayne's Summer Game Jam. So it's from now, starting today. Well, starting today for me. I think it started a few weeks ago, but I'm just starting today. From now until the end of August, so for the next 60 days or so, we're going to stream every day, Tuesday to Saturday, so 5 days a week. And I'm going to work on this game only on stream, only with you guys. We're going to try and build a game from new project all the way to release and see how we get on. So the idea with this, inspired by these amazing pieces of art by Taylor Brooker on Twitter, she creates these embroidery landscape pieces. We're going to try and basically create a tool where we can create these kind of embroidered landscapes, but then we can also kind of transition into them and explore the environments in 3D. We're going to kind of create the environments with like raw materials like soil, water, asphalt, some kind of like raw material stuff. And then the way that when you know, two pieces touch each other, so like if water touches soil, then we create grass. And then depending on how much grass there is, trees start to sprout, and like the environment kind of builds on top of the raw materials that you input. And then birds and animals and all that kind of stuff start to appear. So that's the goal. It's a little bit ambitious for a 60-day jam, but I think we can do it. And then I want to be able to go into that environment and explore and look around and see kind of what we created in this kind of embroidery world. So yeah, we'll see how we get on with that. And then if by some miracle we're ahead of schedule, I have some ideas on how we can expand this and add some challenges and stuff like that. But I think if we get, you know, that base idea done in 60 days, only streaming a couple hours a day, I think we'll be in pretty good shape. Yeah, I was talking to David Whaley about this. He's doing his current game in Unity, but it seems performance is a bit of an issue at the moment. We were discussing how it would have used UE5. So that's interesting. I think, like I said, I haven't used UE5. I do know that Unreal is getting a little bit of heat at the moment for a lot of games that are not performing the best. There's a lot of choppiness, a lot of, you know, all that. I think I don't know if that's fair criticism or not. I don't know UE5 well enough to kind of tell if that's like, you know, quote unquote lazy devs, or if that's actually like an issue that's inherent to Unreal. I don't think it is, but I don't think necessarily switching between Unity and Unreal is going to necessarily make or break your performance. At the end of the day, they're just sending instructions to the CPU and the GPU, and they're just input mechanisms to those two things. So, you know, yeah, I don't know if switching engines is necessarily like a one-stop shop or quick fix for performance issues. It's just something I think you have to kind of keep in mind from the start of your project all the way through development. I think when you try and optimize things all the way at the end, it gets really tricky. I guess you can render the strings and threads with a shader. Yeah, we're going to try and figure that out. We're going to figure out a cool visual for that. I'm not sure how we're going to pull it off, but we'll figure that out. Thanks for the follow, Hayes. Really appreciate it. Sounds like a cool idea. Thank you. Glad to hear that. Will this environment be fully procedurally generated? Sort of, yeah. So it's going to be generated based on what you embroider. So you're going to create these using like raw materials like soil, water, asphalt. I don't know. We got to figure out what those raw materials are. And then when the materials, the way that they combine and like the amount of them. So if you have a lot of grass, then trees start to grow. And if you have a lot of trees, then maybe birds and insects appear. You know what I mean? So based on the kind of raw materials that you input, it'll then generate the environment from that. That's the goal. Sounds pretty interesting. Don't underestimate the short time dev games. One of my favorites was a challenge project. Yeah, I mean, I think having that time constraint can actually be a big help, or that's my hope anyways. I think having more time isn't always necessarily an advantage in making a better game. I think it's definitely a way to add more scope to your game, but it doesn't necessarily result in a better game. So yeah, hopefully we can make something pretty cool here. It's just yeah, kind of we got to see what we can do. So let's get this like little base shader going. The time constraint on Life of Mouse really pushed me for sure. Time constraints can be awesome. Life of Mouse is awesome. You did a really good job with that game. I had a lot of fun. So for those of you who don't know, Hayes developed this game, Life of Mouse, which is part of a Blackthorn Prod game jam project. And that was a lot of fun. It was a really, really well put together game. I think you made it in Unreal, and you played as a mouse, kind of exploring a house, and you had like objectives and like tasks to complete each day. It was a really charming game, and yeah, you did a great job with that. And I think, yeah, you're absolutely right. Time constraints can really make you focus on like the core essence of the game and what makes it interesting. And you know, I think more time just doesn't always lead to better games. It does, but it almost certainly leads to more scope, which isn't, you know, necessarily a good thing. Okay, what we're gonna do, sorry, my light's falling here. Hopefully that'll stay up. Okay, so what we're gonna do, this shader's gonna be super simple. All we're gonna do is we're gonna sample a color palette. That's it. Texture 2D. And this is going to, I'll show you guys in a second why this is interesting. Let's call this color palette. Color palette. Pop that in there. We're just gonna use the main UV channel. Send that out. That's it. Alrighty, and now we need to create a color palette. We're gonna create that by quickly Googling it. Color palette textures. This is exactly what we want. But we want something CC0. Something like that. This is perfect. Actually, you know what? No, I'm gonna steal something from my other project. 1 second. Assets, rendering, images. Here, okay, so this is what I'm using for my other project. So it's a very simple color palette texture. And we're going to co-opt that for this. Color palettes, cool. And we'll set that up in Blender as well. Shading, let's add an image. So why I like this as kind of our base shading, because we're creating a pretty simple environment here. This allows us to basically unwrap the UVs directly into, off to bed now, have a good stream. Thanks, Hayes. Thanks for stopping by. Have a good sleep. This allows us to unwrap the texture directly into our color palette, and everything gets to share the same shader, and it's really, really quick way to work. We'll probably swap some of these out for like PBR shaders later, or PBR textures, I mean, later on. But for now, this lets us kind of just, you know, get going with something that's kind of good enough to start with. So that'll be our canvas, which we'll fill in later. And our table, main material. This will, later on, we'll make this like a nice wood texture or something like that. So it's just like a brown for now. Something like that. Tuckmac, how's it going, man? It's been a while. How you doing? Ooh. Sorry about that. Smashed my coffee. All right. Why are you not coming through? Steal from Google? Nah, steal from yourself. Reverse Robin Hood. Chaotic good vibes. Exactly. I've been dragging this color palette texture around for so many projects now. I don't even know where it originally came from. I know it was definitely, I definitely have the license for it. I know that, but it came from like an asset or something. I don't remember. I've just been dragging it around so long, but it's super useful. It's a really good way to like prototype with at least somewhat interesting visuals. What are we making? All right, let's do this again. Seth, here's the idea, okay? You can tell me if you think it's a good idea or a terrible idea. For this game jam, we have 60 days now until the end of August. What I want to make is and inspired by Taylor Brooker's art here on Twitter, I want to make a tool or a game where you have a canvas that you can kind of embroider. We're going to have I have an idea for the input system. We're going to get to that tomorrow on tomorrow's stream. But basically, you're going to be able to input kind of raw materials like soil and water and all that. And yeah, exactly. Roll the clip. You're going to be able to input the raw materials like water and soil and all that. And based on the way that they combine, environments are going to kind of start to grow. So you're going to get grass and trees and birds and all that kind of stuff kind of growing out of these raw materials that you input through this kind of embroidery. But that's not the end result. The end result is you can then seamlessly, here's where we're getting a little ambitious, seamlessly, we can now transition into that environment. We can walk around in full 3D. So we can walk through the trees, we can, walk over hills, see the birds chirping and all that kind of stuff. And then we can kind of like pop back out, edit the environment and go back in. That's the dream. We have 60 days to accomplish that dream. And I think it's gonna be a stretch, but I have some ideas on how we can make this even more complicated if we do get that done. Any job, sir, for 2 years experience? Sorry, no, I'm not hiring at the moment. Apologies. Alrighty. So why is this not coming through? What are we missing here? What are we missing? Oh, of course, we're missing the texture. There we go. Cool. Okay, so now we have something coming through, and we'll be able to, we'll add some more interesting texture to this later on. What else do we need? We'll model, if we have time later, we'll model the screw on the top, but we definitely need spools of thread. This is I think the only kind of complicated model that we're going to need. So let's get going on that. I want... Gopher, are you still there? What's that? Yeah, I forget this. You told me this tool a while ago that like you can impose an image on your screen and it's over top of everything else. And I've forgotten it so many times. I always ask you about it. And every time I need it, I'm like, damn, I wish Gopher was here right now because I want to remember what that tool was. Where are we? That. Hi, Devros. How's it going? Thanks for stopping by. Let's save this. Desktop, desktop, desktop. Oh, you can just drag it on now. Yeah, we're doing this for a game jam. So this isn't like my next like main game necessarily. But we're gonna do this for a game jam. It's something I was prototyping when I started my next project, and I was really excited about it, but I couldn't quite figure it out at the time. But I've had some ideas since then, and I want to do this game jam. It's 2 months, so we're gonna see if we can pull it off. But I'm excited about it. I think this has potential to be something pretty cool. So we need this and this. Come on, quite a bit. It's pure ref. That's it. Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna remember that this time. It's in the chat logs here, so I'll have a place to reference it. So this is our spool. Is that the right name for these things? It's a spool, right? It's technically a spool. I'm just gonna go lazy here. We're gonna go subdivision on everything. Yeah, you should make it your next game. It's genius. Well, thank you. I'm glad you like it. Yeah, we'll see how we get on with it. If it turns out well enough, then I will definitely release it on like Steam. We'll definitely release it on itch. I'll say that for the jam, of course. But if it does really well, maybe we'll see if it makes sense to do a wider release. This is sort of like DevDuck's game I saw on Thomas Brush podcast, procedural diving based on where you are. Kind of. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely got the procedural element. I'm not sure how DevDuck's doing procedural development. I think, yeah, like when you dive, I think it's been a while since I watched a devlog, if I'm honest. I think when you dive, it like procedurally generates a biome, if I remember correctly. We're gonna kind of do something similar, but just based on like what you create in that kind of embroidery input system. All right. I'm being real laser here. Okay. Here's the part I'm not sure how to do. So if we have any Blender experts in the audience, here's the part I'm going to struggle with. How do we create the thread? We don't really have performance concerns here because we're just going to have a couple spools on stream or on screen at any given time. So we can kind of be pretty lax about it. We could just create cylinders and like repeat them all the way down. You're not gonna be able to pick them up and look it around or anything, so it doesn't need to be like a perfect 3D model. So we could just create like cylinders and an array modifier and create a ton of them, and then add some texture through the shader. But I'm not sure if there's like a better way to do this, and especially to get some like interesting, maybe even procedural strands. That'd be kind of cool. I'm not sure if anyone has any ideas on that. I think what I'm gonna do is, to start, go down the really poorly optimized cylinder route, and someone can tell me if there's a better way to go about this. 90Y or 90Y. Rotate. Numlock. There we go. Do not try this at home, guys. This is going to be a ton of unnecessary vertices. Hooray. Cool. So if we do this, and we give them one of these, and we unwrap this, and that's just gonna be plain white, then in theory, we can give this guy a color. And it will look nothing like a spool of thread. Let's look at that reference image again. So obviously we're missing texture. So that's one thing that's going to be pretty important here. Some texture to kind of break it up and make it actually look like thread. Wrapping it around the spool would go a long way. But I'm not convinced that this is a good way to go about this. Not convinced at all. Let's go like that. Let's go like that. It's hard to say without the texture on it whether this is going to work. But in lieu of any better ideas, I think we're going to go ahead with it for the moment. Something like that. This looks terrible though. Let's fix this. That. Create a blob and draw the texture or use a photo. You could add some curves with half cylinder shape on top. Create a blob and draw the texture. Or use a photo. You could add some curves with half cylinder shape on top. Interesting. I'm not sure what I mean by create a blob though. Objects at origin geometry. The general shape of a thread bunch equals a blob. Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, the only concern is if we do it with just a texture, whether the lighting is going to be convincing enough for it to feel like it's actually part of the scene and not just a texture. We could try and do like height maps and parallax maps and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I'm not 100% convinced I'll be able to pull that off, to be honest. Okay. Okay, you could try making a lot of circles, scale them in one direction to squish them. Then you can apply noise to them, or you can use geometry nodes and swipe them, like make them thick. I think geometry modes might be like the right way to do this. I don't know geometry nodes though. I need to learn geometry nodes. I have never messed with them, and it's like been kind of a big thing on my list. So I'm trying to fix the light here. It's been a big thing on my list. That's good enough. Fix that for next time. It's been a big thing on my list. I really want to mess with geometry nodes. I think that might be the way to go about it. But yeah, I just don't have the experience on that yet. Is there a different chat? Can't see that on Twitch. Yeah, so that's on YouTube. So we have you can see the little icon next to the person's name, whether they're on Twitch or YouTube. So we're streaming on both here, and both chats come together on the screen. Thank you for the follow, QXT. Appreciate it. Okay. This looks terrible right now. We're gonna try and mess around with the shader and see if we can get it to look pretty decent. What is this called? Spool. You could use the blob as a base at least to need less geometry, then add some curve geometry, just an idea. Okay, let's give it another shot. So I'm still not sure what you mean by a blob though. Do you just mean like use like a cube essentially and just kind of like deform it? Carve it up a bit? Actually, I want this location to be taken from here. Yes, QXT, please help me with the thread spools. We're trying to model something that approximates probably the cleaner one, forgetting about the cool strands and everything on this one, but like the middle one here, just like a basic little spool shape. Subdivide, use sculpt, grab. Yeah, okay. But yeah, let's try it. Let's try it. Why is this inverted now? There we go. Okay. And we'll parent you to spool. Thread. Hide you for now. Alrighty, let's try it. So I'm struggling, so I had to reset my Twitch password. Are you going for realistic or stylized? That is a good question, actually. It's something we haven't really talked about. I think we're going to go for a more stylized look with this. We might incorporate some PBR textures, but with like a little bit of, you know, stylization on top of it. So the original pass, terribly unoptimized, was a whole bunch of cubes with an array modifier, or sorry, a cylinder within an array modifier, just to kind of like create a whole bunch, and then to just add some noise in the shader. What we're doing now is we're going to try and sculpt it a little bit and see if we can do something with a little bit less geometry, but get kind of a better look with it. So if I do like every other one of these and just give it a little bit of variation, something like that. It's not perfectly even. Yeah, and then we'll do the same on the Z. Actually, this might work. 8 mint. Good shout. I think this actually might work. Let's go main material. Like that. Go like that. And then let's see what we can do in the shader to kind of give it a little bit more texture. But QXT, if you have any ideas, please do shout. So let's do this. Actually, let's just get rid of that cylinder. I don't think we're going back to that. I think 8 mint, I think this was, you had the right call here. Okie doke. And now let's go 180. There we are. Let's give it that. I feel like our shadows have gotten all crunchy again. What have we done to deserve a stream after all this time? I know, right? I was showing at the beginning, it's been 3.5 years. 3.5 years since the last stream. January 2022, which is wild. And you guys still haven't told me what you've been up to since January 2022. I told you what I've been up to. I'm still expecting the line by line from you guys. But yeah, it's been crazy. And this is our first time ever streaming on YouTube. I've never done that before because I was always a little chicken about it. But we're live on YouTube now, which is very cool. Okay, per pixel, we have 4K resolution. We have, let's bring that down a little bit. Go like 25. Why is this so grainy? Here we go. There we are. Cool. New game, nice. Yes, this is just for a game jam. I want to make it very clear, like there is a game that I've been working on for quite a while that I'll be announcing probably next year. But yeah, for the next 2 months we're gonna play around with this. We're gonna make this on stream a couple hours every day and see how far we get on with it. Are you adding them procedural textures in Blender or in Unity? In Unity. I don't want to do too much setup in Blender. I much prefer doing everything in Unity. You don't have to spend long making models, just like all the game devs that Thomas Brush hosted. You should make a quick, fun prototype with strong core loop and addictive gameplay. That is the right way to do it. I am not doing it the right way. I struggle working on a game that doesn't look good. It's definitely a flaw. But I need to have a little bit of an artistic direction before I can actually get like inspired and work on something. But that's just me. And definitely don't do as I say, don't do as I do. You should probably do exactly what you're saying there and focus on the gameplay. Tomorrow we're going to start on the coding for the input system for this, which I think is going to make the bulk of the gameplay. I think the way that we're going to input this is going to be interesting and add some fun randomness and gameplay to it. But for now, for today, we're just setting up the project. We're doing a little bit of art, kind of getting the basics down, and we'll go from there. Why is Unity 6 version very old? It's not. It's new. We're on Unity 6. Oh, yeah, you say, oh, wait, it's 6.1. Yeah, exactly. We're on 6.1, which I think is the latest beta version. Insane how fast time flies. It's been close to 1 year since FN released. I know. I can't actually believe that. So August will be a year since the PC, Mac, Xbox, and Switch release. And then December was the PlayStation release. But yeah, almost a year. It's crazy. It's crazy. Time flies. I think you should retitle the stream. People are getting confused that this will be the new game. Yeah, I'm starting to think that as well. Yeah, I think I'll do that for the VOD. I'm not gonna mess with it now because I don't want to break anything. But yeah, you might be right. Maybe this title was a bit confusing. So yeah, so to be clear, there is a game I've been working on for a few months. We'll announce that next year probably. I'm really excited about it. I've started playtesting it, and the response has been really good. But I can't show it yet. I've been talking to a PR firm that I want to work with, and we're not going to announce it until next year. So for now, I can't make any devlogs or stream it or anything, but I really wanted to do some streaming. So for this, we are doing the Games for the Waynes Summer Game Jam from now until the end of August. We'll stream a couple hours every day, Tuesday to Saturday, same time. And yeah, the goal is to, at the end, have like 40 videos that go from clicking new project all the way to releasing a game, and should be a good time. I'm in the same position. I'm a 2D artist mainly and always want my games to look gorgeous before everything. I know, right? It's definitely not ideal. It's not the way we should be working. I 100% agree with that. But it's so much more inspiring to work on something that looks at least somewhat presentable. I mean, we're not there yet. It looks at least somewhat presentable. But yeah. I wish I could just like prototype in like gray boxes and still feel kind of attached to the project. I can't. I don't know, it's an NDA, I should ask or not. Is it too difficult to make console ports? I mean, if you will rate from can do myself to need porting house. I could talk generally about consoles. So I did the ports myself. I've got a Switch dev kit behind me, and then for Xbox and PlayStation, I used my publisher's dev kits, and they did the QA, but I did all the coding and all that. It depends on a lot of different factors. I can say, what can I say? I can say that some consoles are much more powerful than others. You can probably guess which ones, and that's going to play a big factor in how the console porting process goes. Optimization is going to be a big part of that. If you can run on like a smartphone, then you're probably good. But there's going to still be some very specific, especially if you're writing a lot of shaders, there's going to be some very, very specific, really kind of intricate issues that you run into, and a lot of reading through documentation and trial and error, and it can be a bit painful. And then I can also say that one of the consoles is dead simple. I had the port done in 2 days, 3 days, and we had no real issues with it, and it was perfect. It wasn't perfect, but you know what I mean. Like everything ran. There's no crashes. Everything was ran at a good frame rate and everything. So it really depends. It depends on your project. It depends on. I think the biggest factor is how much of your background is in software development. The more of a competent programmer you are, the easier porting is going to be. And I don't know if you can really do the ports without being a programmer, if I'm honest, because you're going to be debugging a lot, and you're going to be getting into like, native crashes and native error dumps and stuff like that. And I think that'd be really hard to interpret if you're not a programmer. I could be wrong. But if you have a background in software, I think it's doable. I think it's doable to do the ports, depending on the ambition of your game. How do you do playtests? Is that with your Discord audience or like a company you hire? Is it expensive? This is a great opportunity to plug my Patreon. I'm kidding. I will answer your question, but I don't know if you guys don't know, I do bonus videos on Patreon every 2 weeks. And I just did one on running effective playtests. But it's a combination. I think you need to treat playtests and finding an audience for playtests the same as you do finding an audience for your game as a whole. It's a bit of a marketing effort. You have to be able to find people to play the game. If you can't find people to play the game for free, you're going to have a hard time finding people to pay for the game. I ran mine through Discord. I think Discord's got all the tools you need for running a decent playtest. Basically, we had a channel where I would post new builds. We had a forum where you could, enter bug reports and stuff like that. And we have a general chat for like feedback and all that kind of stuff. I would add people to the playtest group every few weeks, a couple people at a time. I think the number one thing, like if you take anything from this little ramble here, the number one thing about playtesting is the first time someone plays the game is much more valuable than the second or third or fourth or fifth time that they play it. So you want to make sure that you have some way to watch the first playthrough, whether they record their screen or you watch them live. That first playthrough, you have to watch that, because they can tell you, they can talk all day about their experience with it, but watching someone play, you see so much more than anyone can ever describe. You see, where they got stuck, what they were looking at, where you're missing some hints, where they, ran into issues, all that kind of stuff. So you definitely want to be watching that. You can hire, just to answer your second question, you can hire people to do playtests. I had a publisher, so the publisher was also doing QA and playtesting. So that helped. And we did the same thing where, certain members of the publishing team didn't know the story of the game. So when I was signing the deal with my publisher, I wrote out like the whole story for them so they could understand what the game was, which is important because it's a narrative driven game. But they didn't tell certain members of the publishing team the story so that they could experience it fresh as a player would. And that was really helpful. But I don't think you need to go out and pay people to playtest your game unless you're, a big AAA studio and you want to bring people in and sign NDAs and all that kind of stuff. I think you just kind of have to treat it like any other marketing and find people, build a community, and use it as a way to kind of like help build your community, get people involved. I see that fills some gap. Thank you. Yep, no problem. How did you write the story? Where do you find qualified people to give you feedback on a really long script? So the story for Feral North, I kind of just wrote out in a Word document, and it was kind of ad hoc and rushed, or not rushed, but ad hoc and rough. But I want to show you something I've been trying. Is this great book, actually. I've got it right behind me, called Save the Cat. This is like a Screenwriters 101. Come on. Here, save the cat. This is like Screenwriters 101, and it has a lot of really cool tools for writing, like beat sheets, different act structures, all that kind of stuff. That's really helpful. But one thing I've been doing after the release in Feral North is I went back and I wrote a screenplay for the game as if it was, I'll share my screen here, as if I was writing like the pilot for a TV show. So I wrote a screenplay in proper screenplay format, you know, with all the, if you read about how to create a screenplay, there's like, you know, there's a style to writing a screenplay. So essentially I did that. I rewrote Feral North Story as a screenplay, and it was interesting, and it's very different from the game. It was as if it was being made for TV, so there was a lot of differences in the way I structured it. However, I loved this process. I think it was really, really rewarding, and it helped me kind of identify where the game was strong thematically and where it was strong gameplay wise and where the gaps were and everything. So what I'm actually doing for my next game, it's a bit too late for my next game, but I did like a beat sheet for my next game where it's more of like a, you know, like index cards, and you can kind of like move them around and everything. And that was really useful. But I think going forward for all my games, I'll actually write a screenplay for them. I think it's really just a really interesting way to kind of think about your game, and especially if you're doing narrative driven games, it makes sense to have that narrative, you know, literally drive the development of the game. So yeah, I would definitely recommend looking into, you know, screenwriting and what that looks like. And it was a really kind of rewarding process to do this, and it kind of gave me a way to rethink the game kind of a year after release. I did this recently. And I think it was a really useful exercise, and I'll be doing that kind of going forward at the start of my projects. All right, I'm a little bit behind here. Hey, I'm glad I caught you. Thanks for being here. Can I get some advice? Of course. Do the CIG method. Get people to pay you to play test your game. What's a CIG? What's the CIG method? I'm not familiar. It'd be nice to get people to pay you to play test your game. I guess that's kind of early access, but now early access is like, you kind of have to have a finished game for early access. I want to make narrative atmospheric game, but I can decide between Unity and UE. I can program both, but I can't decide. I don't want to waste time. Yeah, don't waste time. Just get it. Just pick one. Whatever one feels more natural to you, just pick it and go. I think people get too caught up on this decision. I don't actually think it matters that much for an individual developer. I think it's up to platforms you aim. I think it's up platforms aim that you want to get your game on mobile as well. Go to Unity. Yeah. I agree. I think if you're targeting mobile, definitely look at Unity. If you're targeting PC and PC and consoles, Unity and Unreal are both going to be great for that. I don't think you need to overthink it. That's cool. Which one did you prefer, the screenplay or your original story? Ooh, good question. Oh, that's a good question. I think they're so different because the second one was kind of tailored to being like a TV pilot. Like I wrote it as if it was a pilot, and you know, it doesn't go over the entire story of Feral North. It was like if Feral North was broken into like 4 episodes or so, I wrote the first episode. So it's not the whole game, but I introduced different characters at different times, moved a lot of things around. There's a lot of scenes that aren't actually in the game. So it's very different. And it was also really interesting to think about, like, you know, when you see an adaptation like a movie or a TV show that comes from a game and it's like kind of different, it was kind of eye-opening to see why it's so different. You know what I mean? Because you're kind of trying to tailor the story to the audience or to the platform that you're on. So you don't have gameplay to fill time. So you now need like more kind of, not filler scenes, but a little bit more plot, I would say, than the game has. So they're just different. And I think it was kind of a really interesting way to kind of just rethink things. CIG's developer Star Citizen. Okay, yeah. So yeah, that would be nice to you know, spend. I think Star Citizen's been in development for years, right? That must be nice from their side. I haven't really followed it. I don't know if there's like, you know, if it's one of those like things like Kickstarter dramas, but yeah, that'd be nice to have people paying you to playtest. You should check out Kit Scenarist. It's a really good free software to write screenplays and organizing research. Let's have a look. Kit Scenarist. Cool. Nice. I will definitely check this out. There was another one I was looking at that's like, what is it? Free online. Yeah, you can see my Reddit history here. I was using Writer Solo, that's it. I was playing around with this one a little bit. But I like having everything in one place, so I tend to use Notion a lot. I keep everything in Notion. So I don't like having it in multiple places, but I'll check that out. All right, got a really odd sort of question. I'm working on an open world RPG, kind of a bigger project than I've done before. I'm looking at setting up spawners for NPCs and was curious, how do you handle management of memory proc for a game that could potentially have a lot of NPCs that are not visible to the player? I.e., my thought is somehow disabling mesh rendering and maybe some other things to minimize the load. So there's a couple of things just high level when you're optimizing, right? You need to know what you're optimizing for. So you can be optimizing for GPU, CPU, network, disk, memory, you know, there's all these different things, and they all have different, all the different kind of optimizations you can make generally have trade-offs. So for example, you're saying, you know, I'll just disable the NPCs that aren't in screen. I assume you mean like you're disabling the renderer so that the GPU and the CPU don't have to worry about rendering it. However, the trade-off is they're still in memory, right? So pretty much every optimization you make is going to have a trade-off in one place or another, right? You might gain some CPU, but you might lose some GPU, or, you know, vice versa, whatever it is. When it comes to memory, with a big open world RPG, memory is going to be a big bottleneck for you. And this was the case with Feral North, where I did a video on world streaming. You can check out. Another shameless plug. Kyle Banks. Can't spell my own name. World streaming. So I built a world streaming solution. I'll paste this in the... No. I'll paste this in the chat here. I built a world streaming solution where, you know, the world kind of comes in and out of memory in real time as you move throughout the world, right? So that has the benefit of the optimizations there that you know, the stuff's not in memory. Please be muted. The stuff's not in memory. It's never rendered, so it's you know, optimized for the GPU, the CPU, memories optimized. But the drawback is that you're now using the disk, right? There's disk utilization. So there's always pros and cons and kind of trade-offs. So you need to figure out what you're optimizing for. If your issue is memory, most likely you need to implement world streaming. That's probably going to be your best bet. If you're using Unreal, I don't know exactly if they have anything built in for you. If you're using Unity, there's a whole bunch of assets for this, or you can use my tool. I make it available to patrons. But you can see here, you know, this is a little debug tool I built. So as you move throughout the world, different subscenes are kind of loaded in and out of memory, and it's all seamless, and you don't see it happening. But yeah, that's going to be your solution typically for these kind of big open world games. Seems like a lot of it is getting ate by rendering, so maybe turning the NPCs that are not in view of the player could cut down the load. Yeah, if your issue is GPU or CPU, then just disable the rendering. But most likely with a big open world game, memory is going to be the issue. Trying to run through these quicker because I'm really far behind on the chat. There's Flax 2, which is there's Flax 2 has consoles. I did like very Unity-like, but modern physics with core CLR integrated. Flax. I am not familiar. That's an engine? Interesting. I have not heard of this. Full source code. So is it open source, or is it like you can get a license for the source code? Cool. I've not heard of this, haven't used it, but yeah, I think it's just, you know, try a few engines, do some tutorials, and see what you like. What is the game jam about? So the game jam is about what matters to me. So we're going a little bit loose on the theme here. It is a bit ambiguous, but what matters to me is nature and environments and stuff like that. So that's what personally matters to me. And if we have time, there is a bit of a story element that I would like to incorporate, where the objective for each of the little embroideries that you're creating is the objective is like, there's like a theme to it. So be like, you're going through the person's life. So it starts with like, you know, their first day of school, or meeting their partner, or getting married, or, you know, yada, yada, yada. And so you're creating little embroideries of these kind of like significant milestones in their life. So if we can get to adding a story, I think that's kind of what we'll do. Otherwise I'm just saying nature is what matters to me, and that's how it fits the theme. Would you say it makes sense to have a movie director in your team when making a big story-driven game? That's a good question. I think, you know, having an eye for cinematography, direction. I mean, games have a director, right? A movie director would be someone who is experienced directing movies, which isn't exactly the same thing as directing a game. So I've technically now directed a game, which is Feral North. Doesn't mean I can necessarily direct a movie. I think you would, you know, have a bit more advantage than someone who's just walking in off the street, but different mediums have different, you know, ways of telling stories and different ways of going about direction. So that's just, you know, something to keep in mind, that a movie director wouldn't necessarily be an expert at directing games. A game director would be better at directing games, obviously. But I think if you were hiring someone off the street and one of them was a movie director and one of them wasn't, the movie director is probably going to have a bit more reusable experience, especially when it comes to like cinematography and all that kind of stuff. Per quarter 250K limit if past, paying 4% of quarter resets then. So 250K like revenue income, revenue limit, otherwise you have to start paying, and I'm guessing below that it's free. Thank you for the follow, SysmZA, appreciate it. Okay, let's been chatting a lot. Let's get back into laying some of this out. But keep the questions coming, guys. I appreciate it. Right. Cool. So our little spool of thread, that's where we left off. Let's get this into 1080p. That helps a bit too. Let's see. That's the ambient occlusion. Okay, so we're going to need a texture for that to make that look better, but I do think that was the right way to go. Can't remember who recommended that. 8mint, thank you. I think that was the way to go, nice and simple. So we'll texture that a bit later. What else do we need? We have... we're going to need a couple spools. So let's actually join these. Oh. Let's check those modifiers. Let's apply that. Let's join those. And let's do an array on this. Just have a few. That's 0. Cool, just quick for now. Just to fill that up. So I know I said that we're going to talk about this tomorrow, but the input system is essentially going to be, you're going to get spools. These are actually backwards, the top one. This one should be on top. But you're going to get spools kind of coming in that dictate what kind of materials you have, I think. So you'll have like a soil one come in and you have to place the soil. Then you have a water one come in, you have to place the water. So it's kind of like a little bit randomized to introduce a bit of variety to it. And yeah, so those will kind of come in and until you've filled the whole thing. But these are backwards. So let's go like this and do this. And then we'll need a rotation on that as well. Yeah, something like that. How do I add a rotation to the array? You need to use an empty object. Empty has the offset, yes, okay. Oh, actually, you know what? Let's do it a curve. Let's do a curve. Also the game, is that game idle game? I came quite late to understand. No, it's not gonna be idle. So we're going to, it's gonna be kind of like cozy. There's not really like a fail state or anything, but you're gonna get raw materials like soil and water and stuff. You'll kind of fill in a canvas with those raw materials, and then the materials will kind of combine. So if you have like soil and water next to each other, it'll create grass. And if you have a lot of grass, it'll create trees. And if you have a lot of trees, it'll create birds and blah, blah, blah. And then you'll be able to kind of like go into the environment and walk around and look around and see what you've created. So it'll be kind of like, you know, not an idle game, but like a cozy, just like a chill game. Kind of like, what's that game? Tiny Glade. Something like that, where it'll be a lot less sophisticated and a lot less pretty than Tiny Glade, but like you're just kind of like building little biomes and there's no real like fail state or objective necessarily. What's the poly count of the spools? Let's find out. Let's find it. Oh my goodness. It's a lot. Let's see here. 29,000. That is way too much. Okay. Way, way, way too much. Thanks for the heads up. We can go like 0.1. Much better. This is actually still like just way too much. I think we're gonna have to come back to this model at some point, but for now, I just want to get this kind of laid out. Eating my lunch and watching the stream. Thanks, Seth. I appreciate it. Nature game kind of. Yeah, exactly. Like the concept? Cool. Thanks, Fragment. And thanks for stopping by. It's been a while. How you been? What were we doing? Oh, yes. We want to do this on a curve. So why is this? This doesn't seem to actually be doing anything to do with the curve, though. Fit to curve. Yeah. Why does this not want to actually do anything to do with the curve? All right. I don't want this AI. Okay. Hello, mate. What game are you making? We're doing a game jam. We're doing a 60-day game jam, and we're gonna make a game based on embroidery, where you create environments using an embroidery kind of system, and then you can like go into the environment to kind of explore. So you can like seamlessly transition between like a full 3D and this like embroidery thing. And it's all inspired by this incredible art that I saw on Twitter from Taylor Brooker. So definitely check her out if you're into this kind of stuff. I think it's super cool. I absolutely love the look of this. I think it's just the most interesting thing. And yeah, based on these images, I like bought embroidery kits and like started learning how to do stitching and all that kind of stuff. And I've kind of fallen off of it a little bit because I didn't end up going with this as like my next game project. But we're going to do it for the game jam because I think it's really cool. And this idea is kind of stuck with me. Good. Finally, some vacation for my day job. Awesome. So time for some game dev. Hope to release my game this year. Started on my Steam page yesterday, so hope to get it up during the summer. Been very inspiring following Feral North. Thank you, man. Yeah, I feel like man, it's been a while since we've caught up. We used to chat quite a bit like a few years ago. But it's been a while. So it's good to see you. Glad to hear you're still cracking on the game dev and releasing something this year. That's awesome. Is it something we can check out? Is like a Steam page or anything we can have a look at? You need to add the curve modifier to the spools. Array just matches the length of the curve. Ah. Cool. Let's have a look. Nice. Okay, that's doing something. That's doing something for sure. Is this like an issue that, let's just isolate these. Is this an issue that like I haven't applied some rotation or something? Let's see. Apply rotation. -90x. Apply rotation. X. Their origins need to align. So you're at 0, 0, 0. Let's do you at 0, 0, 0. Do I need to apply that rotation? Nope. Live stream, yeah. We're bringing back the live stream. It's only been 3.5 years since the last one, but we're back. I've been working on a game as well that is currently on Steam, but I'm not going to toot my own horn. LOL, just love seeing devs working. Feel free to share it. I'd love to have a look if you're interested in a little bit of feedback or anything like that. I'd love to have a look. Mess with the form axis on curve modifier. Okay, we're getting somewhere. We're getting somewhere. Nope. 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 Okay. Here we go. Okay, we're getting somewhere. We're getting somewhere. Okay, let's see if we can make sense of this. I can't quite make heads or tails of like what it's actually following or doing. But if we can get that, the Witch's Realm. I'm not going to play the demo. Maybe we'll do, if you guys are up for it, maybe we'll do a stream where we play some of your demos and review some Steam pages, but we can have a look. Cool. Escape and explore a mystery puzzle adventure where you must manage sanity, solve challenges, and uncover the dark secrets of a cursed town. Navigate your environments, find hidden objects, and survive the Witch's Realm. Cool. Adventure, casual, puzzle, detective, horror. Creepy. Very creepy. Nice. I'm guessing this is Unity, if I'm not mistaken. I can kind of tell the lighting, I think. Very creepy. Do you want any feedback? I don't want to give feedback if you're not looking for it. My day job takes up so much time running a digital product studio in Oslo. I love Oslo. I've been steady working on my game for some months now. Skipped a more realistic game that I can finish next to my job. Horror game inspired by the mechanics of the Cabin Factory. Ooh, interesting. I kind of love that genre. That's all I'll say about that. But very cool. I'm excited to see what you're up to. I'll let you know when the Steam page is up and running. Yeah, cool. SML Unity. Yeah, you can just you can tell a little bit with the lighting. Okay, so if you want some feedback, first of all, you need to have a trailer. Like I think a trailer is like the number one thing you need to have before you put up a Steam page. Without that, it kind of it doesn't feel like there's enough there. You know what I mean? I would also remove this screenshot personally. I think I would just have this as like your head one, your first one, and then your first 4 screenshots. You want to have as much variety as possible, because when you're looking on Steam, we're not going to see it here. When you're looking on Steam, a lot of times you'll get, they've got everything changed for the summer sale. You get the first few screenshots. See? So the first like 3 or 4 will show up in a few places. So you want to have a lot of variety there. You want these two like basically look the same, especially when they're quite small. They basically look like the same thing. So you want more variety there. Same with like your environments, if you can. I get that it all kind of takes place in one building, it looks like. But like if you have outdoors stuff, try to like just get a little bit more variety in there. But definitely remove this one and get a trailer up as soon as possible. Short description: escape and explore a mystery puzzle adventure where you must manage sanity, solve challenges, and uncover the dark secrets of a cursed town. I think that's solid. It gives me a lot of verbs, kind of tells me a little bit about what we're doing. Navigate eerie environments, find hidden objects, and survive the Witch's Realm. I think that's a solid description. I don't know if it tells me. I think it's solid. I don't really have a lot of critique there. Your first 3 tags though, adventure, casual, puzzle, they're kind of generic. Like detective horror tells me a lot more. These 3 are a little bit generic. So I'd maybe have a look at what games are being recommended as similar. It looks like actually, you know what? I think you might be okay there because it's got pretty similar games in here. It's not too far off, so I think you might be okay there. And then maybe get some GIFs in the description just to kind of like break this up. So like you'd have like classic escape room style puzzles, have a GIF showing me that, and then get those get those bullet points on. I think you don't have too much text, which is great, because I think a lot of times people put way too much text in here and no one's reading that. Bullet points are great, but get some GIFs in there to kind of spruce it up a bit. Because right now what we're missing is like any kind of movement, right? This is all static images, and you're selling a game here. So definitely get some motion in there. Capsule, I think, it looks like a screenshot. I think your logo's fine. I don't know if the is quite centered. It's a little off to me. But I'm not a graphics designer, so if you feel like you know better, definitely ignore me. But I think, we could have a little bit more of an interesting image here. Yeah, that's a good point. Okay. At Unity discussions, they ask about GI stuff. They may do dynamic lighting later. Maybe, who knows? I'm not sure what that's referring to. I think I've forgotten what we were talking about before. Neil McKenzie, how you doing, man? Oh man, you screaming your game development. It's really distracting from my game development. Hope it's going well, dude. Sorry for the distraction. I'm also getting distracted. I'm supposed to rewrite my story and make a second draft. Very cool. It's fun stuff. I think the second draft is always the most fun because you can actually start to like mold things together. First draft I find very stressful. Just trying to like get all the ideas down and make something coherent. Second draft, you get to like mold it. I think that's a lot of fun. Gifts is a good one. Yeah, definitely. You gotta get some movement in there. Sanity wagging a little rework tough kind of covers big area. Just give feedback. Needs great capsule art. 100% agree. The capsule is like the number one thing. You definitely gotta nail that one. So I would put a little bit more into that. See if you can create something that's a little bit more captivating and something that like stands on its own, where you see the capsule and you kind of get a sense of what the game is and it kind of draws you in. It's still very early and it's my first game. You're doing an amazing job for your first game. Don't that's why I always ask first before giving any feedback, because I don't want it to come across harsh. I'm just trying to help. But I think you're doing a great job. Like you've already come a really long way. There's just some like little things to kind of tidy up, but this looks fantastic. This is great. Screenshot. It's very, especially for like, you know, keep in mind my kind of games are narrative driven. I like atmosphere. I like story. I'm not like a big gameplay person. So take all of my feedback through that lens, right? When I'm looking at a game, this kind of screenshot, this is like, you know, this is my bread and butter. I love this stuff. It just feels so moody and atmospheric. Yeah, it's really good. I think these other ones you can probably improve on. But it's just like a little bit of lighting changes, get a bit more variety in there, and I think you're good. I think you're doing a great job. I lost my first game Virginity on 2015 with an asset flip on Google Play Store. I think a lot of us did. I made a little game I've actually never talked about on YouTube or anything. I made this little puzzle game called Tangled. It's not on the store anymore, but it was like a little puzzle game. It was like my first game I ever released. It was terrible. I think it got like 10 downloads on Google Play, and it probably would have been around that time, 2015 or so. I've always skipped second drafts till yesterday, and I realized I always skipped the good part. Exactly, yeah. Second draft is where the kind of magic happens. First draft, and when you can trust yourself to do a second draft, I think that makes the first draft easier, because you know that you're just getting it all out there, and you can trust yourself that on the second draft you'll be able to like shape it, right? You're kind of just like laying all your Lego pieces on the first draft. Second draft, you come back and you start assembling things, and you start finding the theme, you start finding like what's interesting about the story. So it's definitely an important part. It is being made in Unity 6. Cool. And one screenshot really sells the story atmosphere. 100%. Yeah, that to me, like you could almost take this logo, slap it here, and kind of make that your key art, at least for now. And I think it would be an improvement. Excuse me. I think it'd be an improvement over what's there. I still think you really, really need to nail that key art. So I would keep working at it, but I think that would be an improvement. I think this is a really good image. It does a lot and should definitely be your first screenshot, if not the key art. Cool. All right, let's figure out this curve. So I can't rotate it. These are always going to be vertical. Can I can't do that. I can't do that. What can I do? There we go. Hell yeah, that's perfect. Okay. Very, very cool. And then if I parent this, and then I can move this, and I can bring that back. And I can do this. The only thing I don't want, I don't know if anyone knows the answer to this, how do I make it so it doesn't actually deform? Like I don't want it to deform the mesh. I just want the mesh to be repeated along it. You know what I mean? Is there a way for me to kind of lock the mesh itself? Like I don't want the individual meshes bending. I just want them to be spawned along that curve. Like that kind of works, but it's very boring. I still want them to like kind of like have some rotation on like the Z axis, but I don't want the individual meshes deforming. Just the spawn. QXT, man. I need you back from your draft writing. If 6.1 try project auditor, maybe can help give code optimization feedback. I'm not sure, couldn't use it properly. Is that a thing, project auditor? I haven't seen that. Let's see. Get insights on issues with the scripts, assets, and settings of your project. Ah, cool. This is something that is definitely much needed. I have not seen this. I'm gonna dig into this later. I know you were giving that feedback to Mr. Smiley, but I'm definitely gonna check that out. Grab the black things and bend it. You mean the handles? So I can bend it and it does spawn along the path that I want, so that's perfect. But what I don't want is like, see how this like see this third one here is like all warped? I don't want the individual meshes to be deformed. You can make individual spools and use the follow path constraint that only influences position, but you need to rotate them manually. I can live with that. I think I can live with that. Follow path constraint. Is that... Is that like a property on? It's in the constraints tab. Ah. Cool. Okay, so let's turn off this. And I still want the array modifier. I'm assuming. Spool curve. Okay. I don't think it likes this being a parent object. Parent, clear parent. This is a cool idea, actually. I work in Blender with the curves, but I'm not the best with it, but I can try to help. Yeah, I've been messing with curves lately. It's not something I've traditionally used a ton of, but they do seem quite handy if you can get the hang of all the different tools. Okay, and I want you at 0, 0. And you're at 0, 0. Okay. Follow path. Array also needs to go, unfortunately, and you got to adjust the position along the path with the offset. So do I need to actually like duplicate the... Oh yeah, you said make individual spools. All right, let's fix the rotation on this. You got to adjust the position along the path with the offset. I'm not sure what you mean by that. So you're saying I need to create individual and I can link them at least. GUI, GUI, GUI. Okay. And then get rid of the array and the curve. And then you got to adjust the position along the path with the offset. Okay, so each of them individually, okay, I think I understand. So each of them individually are saying, so like this one's offset would be 0. Oh. And then this one would be like 0.5 and so on and so forth. Is that? But it doesn't seem to actually be, oh yeah, because I have that turned off. Ah. Gotcha. Okay. But then, yeah. So what is like... What's actually the point of the path then? Because these are like... They're just kind of moving around independent of the path, it seems like. 5. Offset must be negative. Okay. You know what? I think I might just manually place them in Unity. That might be easier rather than messing around with this, because I don't think it's going to give me exactly what I want anyways. And if it's going to require a whole bunch of like manual tweaking, I may as well just do that in Unity. Cool. Thanks though. Okay. I think that gives us a little bit to work with for our layout. This lighting is still terrible. We're not going to mess with that now because I could spend all day tweaking that stuff. Let's get rid of some of these though. Remove. Post-processing, yep. Okay, good enough. We'll figure that out later. I think there's going to be some complicated stuff with the lighting and switching between the two environments. So I don't want to get too bogged down in that just yet until we have that transition. So I think this gives us enough to go with. I'm not loving how flat this is. So maybe what we'll do for the rest of this stream is we'll grab some textures. So we're not so flat. So let's get we'll need a nice wood texture, a kind of canvas material, like a fabric. For the table, I'm imagining like a wood table, so we'll do another wood. For that, plastic or cardboardy, and then we'll see if we can get some thread going. Right, let's see. This might work. Let's do, yeah, like a soft wood like that, something like that. Okay, so let's grab that. This only comes in 8K. Oh, this is not what I want. That 4K. And let's get the basics set up. So for this, we need Unity Ambient CG Importer. So it's a cool tool that's been open sourced for importing ambient CG. Is this the right one? Yes, this is. So this will generate the materials for you, which is really nice. And it'll kind of merge all the textures together and all that. Super handy tool if you're using ambient CG. That's not what I want. I just want to download this as a zip. Sorry, I missed the beginning of the stream, so I don't really have the context of what we're working on. Is this your next game? And if so, what are you envisioning with the core mechanics? So this is not my next game. I think I need to retitle the stream because I think that is maybe a little misleading. So we're doing for Games for the Wains for the Glasgow Children's Hospital. So Games for the Wains does, actually, I know you know this, Neil, but Games for the Wains does a campaign with Glasgow Children's Hospital to help raise money. This year they're doing a game jam. So I think it started a few weeks ago. I'm just starting today. But it's from now until the end of August. So we're going to stream this for a couple hours every day, Tuesday to Saturday. And we're going to try and build a game from beginning to, release on like itch in those 60 days. And I'm only going to work on this on stream on top of, my main project. and we're going to see what we can get on with. So this was kind of all inspired by a prototype I was doing right after Farewell North, where I was prototyping a few different ideas. And I saw this image on Twitter from Taylor Brooker, who is like an embroidery landscape artist, and she creates these really amazing landscapes through embroidery, and it got me really inspired. So I got like an embroidery kit. I started learning how to do embroidery and all the different stitches and all that. And I wanted to make this game where you could kind of create these like environments, like key milestones in a person's life. So you're like creating different moments from like their marriage, their first job, yada yada yada. We're not doing all that, but what we're going to try and do is we're going to try and create a tool where you can create these little embroideries, and then you can actually like transition into that environment and go and explore around. So if you use like water and soil, it'll create grass. And if you have a lot of grass, it'll create trees. And if you have a lot of trees, it'll create birds. And then you can go into the environment and you can like walk around and see this kind of like little world that you've created, and kind of like quote unquote relive those memories. So that's the idea. I don't know how far we're going to get on that in 60 days, just doing a couple hours a day, but we're going to try. So today we're just kind of laying out a little bit of the kind of workstation, and then tomorrow we'll do the kind of input to actually create embroideries. And then day 3, we'll see if we can start transitioning between the two environments and actually generating a 3D world out of these kind of embroideries. But yeah, to be clear, this is not like my next game. I do have another game I've been working on that I can't announce yet. We're probably going to announce that early next year. But in the meantime, we're going to have some fun with this for the summer. And maybe we'll build some momentum with the streaming and keep it going beyond the summer. It's something I kind of miss doing. I haven't done it in like 3.5 years. I kind of missed it. Weirdly enough, I really did not like streaming back when I actually did stream. But over time, it's kind of like grown on me, the idea of it. And I think I have a better setup now, more comfortable being on camera, more comfortable chatting with you guys in real time. So yeah, I've just been kind of wanting to stream and can't show my next game. So we're going to do this for the summer and see how we get on with it. And yeah, it should be fun. I also have an idea for how we can actually raise some money for the charity through this. I'll introduce that tomorrow. I think it's something that'll make the programming a little bit more exciting and possibly make me broke. But we're gonna introduce a little challenge to the stream tomorrow, and yeah, should be fun. It sounds class, and of course, great cause. Thanks for the summary. Love the art as well, by the way. Thanks for highlighting it. Yeah, her work is amazing. I don't think she posts on Twitter anymore, but I'm sure she's on like Blue Sky and stuff. But every time I see it, I'm just like amazed by it. It's so cool. And she creates these like, I don't know, it's like little villages and stuff. So I'm imagining, I don't know how far we're gonna get with this, but I'm imagining like you can maybe draw a road, and you if you make the road, then like little houses pop up and little cars start going along it, like little embroidery cars and stuff. And I don't know how far we'll get with that, but I find it very inspiring. Her work's really incredible. And yeah, for a great cause. So should be fun. Okay, let's get this going. Extract all. Okay. Create plugins. That should do. Okay, so what this is going to do, this is going to let us generate materials from the ambient CG textures that we're downloading, which will help save us some time. So if this works, yeah, ambient CG importer, very cool, 4K, and then we can just pop in the URL of this guy, and fingers crossed, this should do the trick. Nope, it will not do the trick. Assets in the, here. Create folder, ambient CG importer / imported, and fingers crossed. And it's running. So what are you guys working on today? Is it true that Unreal has better lighting? I'm not a game dev, just want to know. It's a little bit more nuanced than that. It might have better lighting by default. I will grant that. But at the end of the day, it's just like they're both Unity and Unreal are using the same GPU. So if you're writing your own shaders, you're you know, the lighting's your responsibility anyways. If you're just using the default shaders and the default lighting model, Unreal might have better lighting, yes. But at the end of the day, it's like it's not that Unity's not capable of that lighting. It's just not the default lighting, if that makes sense. So I think you get a bit of a head start with Unreal for sure when it comes to that stuff. But it's not. Oh, no, this is the wrong tool. This is totally the wrong tool. There's a newer one. This is the one. Yeah, this is what I want. Okay, GitLab. There we go. Have you seen trailer for the following game, I Am Ripper? I have. It does look amazing. It's gonna be story based from what I heard. Yeah, the I Am Ripper looks incredible. I think I might have wishlisted this. Yeah, I already wishlisted this. It looks so good. I don't know if the trailer is like the music's copyright or anything, but if you guys haven't seen this, I definitely recommend checking it out. I know they just got funding from the UK Games Fund. Very well deserved. It looks incredible. It looks incredible. For me, I'm a full-time 2D and UI artist struggling to make my game by night. I can definitely relate to the struggles. It's tough balancing those two things. Thankfully for me, Feral North is kind of giving me another chance to do another game full time. So for now, I get to kind of focus on this, which is really, really fortunate. I realize I'm very fortunate on that, but I definitely know that struggle of trying to balance the two, and it's tough, man. It's busy. Trying to fix the selection of actors in Selection Box. It's based on actors' bounds scale, which isn't very accurate, so few of the edge actors are getting selected when they shouldn't, or vice versa. It sounds a little frustrating. Is that just like a bug kind of reported by users, or is that something like an issue with something they're currently working on, like a new feature? I think yes. Only problem is Unreal recently started to optimize dynamic lighting, improving job systems since they're running on single core. Aside technical stuff, I do agree UE has better. Yeah, the thing is, like, all that lighting does come with a cost, right? So you do need to optimize it, but it does look really good. I don't know what engine this is. This probably is Unreal. But man, this game looks really, really good. Yo, Ilax, welcome back. Unity 6 now looks really amazing for lighting regardless, and it's going to be amazing to see on the market. Agreed. I think Unity 6 is making some big strides, and hopefully they keep that going. What are you doing prior to game dev? Were you a programmer? Yes, I was a full-time software engineer for about 12 years. I was a tech lead for the last few, so leading teams of engineers and kind of working on games on the side. And then, yeah, luckily enough, I had a little bit of savings, so I went all in on my last game for the last year, and it did well enough that I got to do another one. So I'm really, really grateful for that. But yeah, my background's in software development, and I loved my career. I really did. It was just kind of balancing the two. I felt like there was like no time left to do anything else. So I'm really glad to be able to focus on this now. But yeah, if game number 2 flops, then it's going back to work as a software developer. And it's not the worst thing in the world. How's it going? How's streaming after so long? You know what? I was just talking about this. So back when I used to stream, I'll be honest, I really did not like streaming. I was doing it for you guys, and I was very happy to, but it took a lot out of me, and especially because I was working full time, so I would have to do it after work, and I was just exhausted. Now I get to do this full time, so I can kind of focus a bit more on this. I have a much better setup. Like, I can just hit go. I don't have to like move anything around, and that's because of, you know, things like Patreon and stuff. I've bought a lot of camera equipment and tripods and lights, and I've got like a really good setup now. So I can just hit record or hit stream and start going. So that's really nice. So it's taken a lot of the pressure off, and yeah, I've been, you know, I kind of realized a few weeks ago that like, hey, I've kind of got all the tools now that kind of like solve all the problems I used to have with streaming. So there's no real excuse not to do it anymore. And I'm much more comfortable on camera now, thanks to doing all the Patreon bonus videos. So yeah, it's going well, I think, so far. I'm enjoying this. It's nice hanging out with you guys, chatting in real time. I'm excited for when I can actually stream my like actual game next year, hopefully. hopefully early next year, I can stream what I've actually been working on. I can get back to making devlogs. I miss all that stuff. But I think this will be fun for the summer anyways, and we can see how far we get with this, and if this game has any legs, or if we just leave it as like a little game jam game. But yeah, it's Unreal. I Am Ripper is on Unreal. Yeah, that makes sense. It definitely has that like very professional look to it. Yeah, it looks incredible. I'm very excited to it. Excited to check it out. I look forward to the new game devlogs. Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited to get back to those. I feel like for YouTube, like I enjoy doing the kind of like, I don't know even what you would call what I've been doing the last few, just like kind of like technical deep dives and stuff like that. I enjoy it, but the videos haven't been performing terribly well, and they take a ton of time. So I think for the summer, I'm taking a little bit of a break, doing the live streaming, and maybe we'll make a devlog out of this game when it's all done, and you guys in the chat will be in the videos, which would be kind of cool. Yeah, I'm excited to get back to that. We do love Unity generally, aside how they manage things, you know what I mean? Yeah, Unity the engine is way better than Unity the company, unfortunately. The company, I think, you know, time will tell. I think the new management has been on a better track, at least. It seems like things are kind of going in a better direction and all that. But Unity the company as a whole has kind of taken a really amazing engine. Like in 2018, I think Unity was like so good, and then it really kind of has had some issues for a few years now, unfortunately. But hopefully they can get it back to where it was. And I still love the engine. Like it kind of really fits well for my workflow. Hey ITR, hey iLox's mom. All right, what are we doing? Oh yeah, ambient CG. Okay, so let's get the proper plugin in. This guy. Extract all. What is it saying? The compressed folder is empty. Before you extract files, you must... So did not download anything? Code. Download. Sorry, Alex. What I love about devlogs is that the dev surprises us of what he did. Yeah, I love watching devlogs. I've kind of fallen off on them. I don't know what devlogs you guys are watching right now. I've kind of fallen off a little bit. I really enjoy Wishbone's devlogs, but I think even that I'm a few behind. I've been more watching like technical deep dive videos lately. I haven't been keeping up on many of the devlogs, but like Pawnee Pants when he was doing the Punch a Bunch devlogs, those are incredible. Danny, of course. I really enjoy Wishbone Games devlogs, as I said. But I've kind of fallen off on keeping track of all of them lately. I have been in Unity for a long time while making worlds for VR chat, so it gave me experience before game development. Very cool. So, okay, so what is VR chat? I hear about VR chat all the time. Is that like those, what do you call those? Like the streaming avatars? Where like you'll have like an anime character or something like that? Is that what VR chat is? I feel like I'm too old. I don't know what it is, but I hear about it all the time. At Banks, did you notice they removed local project creation, went away with Unity Hub recently? Now we have to register even demo or learn projects to cloud. No. I just created this project locally. I'm not sure what that requirement is, but I'm definitely not linking any of my projects to cloud, and I just created a project locally today, so I'm not sure. Unity does some really cool tech stuff, but upper management also really loves money and AI. Yeah, I feel like they're going way too much into the AI stuff. Like I don't care about any of that. It's just, let's just like fix the damn render engines, render pipelines, and like get things kind of solidified. The AI stuff is so frustrating to me. I like Sebastian Lag. I love Sebastian Lag. Yeah, his videos, him and Ace Rolla are like the two, you know, as soon as the video comes out, I kind of drop what I'm doing and I watch it. I love their stuff. Those kind of like technical deep dive things, and they're both like articulate their points very well. Sebastian, like in particular, like his visualizations are kind of like next level. Like they're really incredible. Yes, agree. They all decided to leave together. Sadly, yeah. It's a virtual world social game. Oh, okay. I don't know why. I think I just hear the chat thing, and I assume it's the. I don't know. I thought it was the avatar creations. Oh, interesting. I didn't realize it was like an actual game or like its own standalone thing. Yeah, you can stream in VR essentially, and it is pretty cool. LOL. Oh, so maybe is it both? Some VTubers stream in VR chat, but a lot use specialized software. Ah, okay. Should I be a VTuber, guys? Or should I... Is my face okay for this? Or should I create an avatar? It's not really a game, it's social. I see. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I feel like I'm entirely out of the loop on that. I have no understanding of what that is. Use the suit, the Rococo suit. That'd be, I wonder if anyone does that, because the Rococo suit does, not sponsored, the Rococo suit does do real-time animation, so you could in theory like have an animated character here and be like moving around doing your whatever streaming stuff and like have the anime character do that. I wonder if anyone does that. That'd be pretty cool. Okie doke. Right, okay, so what this should do is we should be able to take these zip files from ambient CG, generate all the textures, combine all the textures, and generate a material out of it. People do. Oh, wow. That's really cool. That's like quite an investment for, I guess, like, I mean, people make a ton of money with streaming, so I guess it makes sense. That's pretty cool. All right, tools, ambient CG. Yes, okay, this is the right tool. Okay, so we should be able to take this. Default should be fine. Generate a material from it. So we did at the very beginning, I think we need to make a decision here. At the very beginning, we started creating our own shader with just this basic kind of color map, color palette. We have a very simple environment here, so maybe we actually don't do that. We just UV unwrap everything, and then we can get some really nice textures from ambient CG and do everything that way. So we're gonna do away with the color palette, I think. So painted wood 009C. Let's pop you up here. Painted wood. So that's going to be our table, but we need to create that texture over here as well. So this will be painted wood 009C. Shading. Painted wood. And then let's UV unwrap you properly. People have full suits and VR setups just for this game. I don't get it, but interesting. Oh, so just for, so I was saying using Rococo or something like that for streaming, but they have it just for that game. Wow. I do stream on VR chat sometimes, but it's really your preference when it comes to streaming. I was just kidding. I feel like I'm like so out of the loop on like all the VR or VTubers and VR and all that. So like I don't even know where to start with how out of the loop I am on that stuff. So I think I'm just gonna do it the old-fashioned way and just use my ugly mug. I'll be lurking otherwise. Apparently some of us have jobs. Sorry to hear that. But thanks for stopping by, Alex. Really appreciate it. Most people who play VR chat don't stream. Lots of people are just really rich. So what? Okay, and now I need to know what this is because I'm so confused. VR chat. Let's learn, guys. Jeez, 240,000. So is it... Okay, here we go with like how far out of the loop I am. Is it like Roblox? Is it like people create little like experiences and like you all go in and like hang out together? Is that even what Roblox is? I don't even know. I'm so out of the loop. There's some really weird people on VR chat. Take your word for it. If you know Second Life, then it's more like a first-person version of that. Oh, okay. I remember Second Life. I never used it, but I do remember that. That kind of gives me some context. Can play in both VR and on PC. Ah, I see. Cool. Okay, well, this has been a tangent. Let's get back to work. But thank you guys for educating me. Double that. Roblox is a good analogy, but Second Life is closer. Okay. I think that gives me enough. Like I can kind of mentally model that. Also not sponsored by this guy, but have you seen Seta level design on YouTube? They have some really amazing Unity tutorials. No, I haven't. But level design is like not my forte. So if this is actually like level design tutorials, I will be subscribing. Oh, okay. So it's more like design tutorials and stuff. No, I haven't seen this. It's cool. Cool. They're still active. Yeah, nice. Cool. I'll check out some of their stuff. So you're streaming every day for the next 60 days. So I think we're gonna do Tuesday to Saturday. So 5 days a week. I don't think I'm gonna commit to doing 7 days a week. If you guys are hanging out every day, and it's feeling good, then maybe we will. But for now, I'm gonna commit to 5 days a week for 60 days. And we'll see. I think towards the end, for sure, we're probably going to get to a point where we're not making enough progress and we need to kind of crunch down. So I'll probably do like 7 days. But for now, considering it was 3.5 years since my last stream, I think it'd be a little ambitious to promise 7 days a week just yet. No problem, Unk. Cool. Okay, let's get this a little bit bigger or smaller. Cool. And then we want, I think it was this one. Tools, ambient CG. This is kind of the nice thing about using, like, if we use photorealism, at least for like a basic environment like this, tools like ambient CG are so nice to just be able to kind of like throw some stuff together. I know it kind of feels like cheating. I always feel like a little bit icky, but it's nice. And for a game jam, I think it's the way to go. Great folder, wood 17. We'll need to do some custom shader stuff later, so don't worry too much. But for now, I'm gonna do this properly. Do that. And then for this guy, we want wood 17. Wood 17. This has been super fun. I'm going to hop back to working, but I did join the Discord and I have notifications on. Cool. Thanks for joining. Thanks for tuning in, Mr. Smiley, and hope you have a great day back at work. Hopefully see you in the future streams. Okay, and we're going to need a second material for this guy. So we need a fabric. Something basic like this. Yeah, we'll go with that. How's the stream quality, by the way, guys? Because I know that was a big issue back in the day when I was streaming. The internet's much better now. Should hopefully have much better sound quality as well. But let me know. Great, folder, fabric 62. It's really good, at least on Twitch mobile. Sound is perfect as well. Nice. Glad to hear that. Very glad to hear that. And we'll assign that. Cool. Let's unwrap these. It's good for me as well. The chat is sometimes hard to read though. Is it like too small, or what can I do to improve that, QXT? Gonna head on to now. Good luck. Thank you very much. Hopefully see you in the future streams. Thanks for stopping by, though. Appreciate it. We can go bigger than that. Cool. What are these? I don't think we're going to see any of that anyway. Oh, let me see. That should be okay. The bright text on bright background. Okay. I'll see if I can get like a drop shadow on that. Fabric 62, wood 17. Cool. We're getting somewhere with this. We're gonna do a lot of post processing and lighting stuff later, so I'm trying not to overthink any of this at the moment. I know it looks kind of flat and boring. Cool. And can we get like a cardboard texture? Paper. Yeah, something like that. Oh, we need PNGs. Post-processing always saves the day. It's true. It's true. Post-processing is like everything when it comes to visuals. Oh, is this paper 1? What is this game? So we are making a game for a game jam. The game idea, real quick. I feel like I'm pitching this a lot. Hopefully I'm getting better at it. So the game idea is very much inspired by Taylor Brooker. She's an artist on Twitter whose work I just find so cool. So she creates like these landscape embroideries. And so what we want to do is we want to try and create a system where we can have some basic inputs like soil, water, etc. We can add those to a canvas, and then based on what's touching each other, so if like soil and water are touching, it creates something new. So in that case, like grass. And then if you have a lot of grass, trees will start to sprout out. And if you have a lot of trees, birds will start to appear, etc. So you as a player are using these like raw inputs to create these kind of biomes and environments. And then the idea is hopefully we can get it so we can kind of seamlessly transition from this embroidery kind of bird's eye view and then like kind of swoop in to actually like a 3D environment that you can walk around, have a look around, kind of see what's going on in there, and just kind of explore what you created. And then, so we have 60 days for the game jam. So if we can get that far, then I have some ideas to go beyond that. But that's the basic kind of goal to start with. WFC algorithm. I'm not sure what that is. Algorithm. Wave function collapse. Maybe. Archetypal and produces procedure. Kind of. So what I'm thinking is more along the lines of Falling Sands, where you'll kind of, so we're getting ahead of ourselves, but tomorrow the idea is to work on the inputs, where basically you'll be able to like input water, right? So you'll kind of get like a burst of water and then maybe sand and whatever, and then they'll kind of like stack from the bottom of the embroidery going up, and then based on what's touching each other, like I said, it'll kind of like generate some stuff. But maybe what I'll do is have a look at this offline and see if maybe this is something that can help us out. Actually sounds very much like it could be. No, it's not helper. Interesting. Okay, maybe we will check this out. I'll check it out off stream, because I don't think it'd be terribly exciting to watch me read this, but thanks for the suggestion. That actually might be exactly what we're looking for. Cool. But for today, we're just kind of like creating the project, creating a little canvas, and getting things laid out. Tomorrow we'll start writing some code and actually putting this thing together. And this is paper 1. Oh, that's nice. Good luck. Thanks, Preslov. I think it will be pretty cool. I think. But we'll see how we get on. Paper. And we need 2 materials on this. Thanks for the follow, X-Sivian. Appreciate it. So this is going to be the tricky material. And I think we might need to do some custom shading for this one. But can we get a base that kind of looks something like thread? No. Yarn? No. What are some synonyms for we tried thread. What's fabric? So if we can get one that's white or grayscale, then we can just swap out the colors based on the material that we're working with. We need something that looks kind of threadish. We might have to do this ourselves. I'm gonna start with this though. I don't think this is gonna work. Don't think this will look very good. Okay. Okay. And this will be fabric 045. Ooh. Okay. Oh, this actually might work. That might do the trick when we get the height map on Unity. That might look good enough, and then we can model a couple like little strands coming off of it so it looks a little bit less, you know, perfect. That might do the trick. Thanks again to thanks again to 8mint. This was a really good idea. I think it's like really simple, but works very well. Or should work very well. Okay, doke. Paper. Let's do you next. You unwrap. Cool. Cool. I think we can definitely improve that model. It doesn't look the best, but let's get the proper materials on this. Fabric 45, paper 1. Apply that. And then we're going to get rid of the Uber shader for now. We'll probably have to, like I said, do some custom shader stuff later on. But for now, this gives us enough of a base. And then what we can do is when we're dealing with a spool, we can hopefully recolor this based on what material we're working with. So if we're working with like water, it'd be like a nice blue, you know, that kind of stuff. And we'll play around with the smoothness and all that. Get it looking quite right, or just right. Hold up. I think we need a little bit more separation between these. What do we want to do? Let's go back to our reference photo. This one. Just let me zoom in. So yeah, we need a little bit more separation between these. Right now it's looking a little bit too flat. And I think we want to do that with geometry. But we applied all the modifiers. This is looking pretty rough. So what we're going to do is we're going to separate this for now and disable that. Let's redo this. Okay, subdivision surface, crank that up, shade smooth. Hang on. Okay, subdivision surface, crank it up, shade smooth, probably don't need that much. And let's get this positioned. Why are we, hang on. There we go. Okay, we're gonna bring that down. Then we want to add all these little rivets so we can add some detail. Something like that. Let's see how that looks. So it's a little bit too small for like the ambient occlusion to latch onto, which is a bit of a problem. Five. Doke. Yeah, I think we'll need to do a little bit more to get some detail in between, so it actually looks like separate threads. Right now it's all kind of blending together. But okay, I think we're getting somewhere with this, and I think we can kind of leave it there for today. Tomorrow we're going to start on the actual input, so we'll start actually creating environments, start programming things. I have an idea for how to make the programming a little bit more interesting and potentially raise a little bit of money for charity by bleeding me dry, but yeah, we'll go over that tomorrow. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys, for this first stream back in 3 years. Apologies, I'm probably a little bit rusty, but yeah, we'll get there, and I really appreciate you guys hanging out. So check it out tomorrow. See you guys tomorrow at 11 a.m. BST. I think that's 10 a.m. Central European time. And yeah, if you're watching the VODs, thanks so much for watching this long. And for those of you guys who hung out live, really appreciate you being here. All right, catch you guys later. Bye.